Recreation Unlimited. Today we're going to be talking about once you get your tub filled up with a salt system, the next steps that you're supposed to do. So we got it filled up, to the bottom of the pillars here. Now we're going to turn our power on. Okay, wait a second here for it to boot up. So anytime that you're going to be filling your spa off, you want to make sure that you have your power off prior to filling, and then once it's filled up, then you can go ahead and turn your power on. So this here is the home screen on the Salina here. So I've done these tubs in here enough to know exactly what we're going to be needing to put in to get it balanced out. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 1 cap of chlorine. Then we're going to put in 5 caps of down because the alkalinity is going to be high. And you're typically going to be doing that every day for the first like 3 to 5 days to try to get your alkalinity to do a hold. Once it does a hold, then you're probably only going to have to add in about once or twice a week with these salt systems. Then we're going to be adding in 2 ounces of staining scale to help beat down on that calcium. And then we're going to add in an entire bottle of Metal Gone. This is going to help take out all the iron from your hard water that you're putting in there. Okay, now we're going to prime the pumps here. So we're going to turn the pump on. Jet 2 is automatically going to be kicking on. We're going to hit it again, and then we're going to power it off. And you're going to continue to do that until your tub is running the way that it should be. Opening up all the jets here is going to help with that. Now we're going to do your first pump, which does typically have 2 speeds. We'll power it off and we'll power it back on. And this here is how your tub should be running anytime that you ever do a priming stage. Now the next step with the salt system, once you add in your general chemicals to it, is to add your salt in. Now with the salt system, with Caldera specifically, you have to add in your salt through your filter house. These, on the backs of this freshwater bag, they try to give you a rule of thumb with it, with how many gallons that you have. This here is about 400 gallons of water inside here. And then the back of this bag, it tells you to put in like 9 3/4 cups of salt. But with the experience that I have, I've noticed that if you put in the amount that it tells you to put into, once the temperature of the water raises, your salt content is going to go through the roof. So then you have probably 3 weeks to about 2 months before your tub will read a high salt content. You don't want that, because the only way to get rid of the high salt content with a Caldera spa is to drain the tub down halfway and dilute it out with your salt. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the measuring cup that's inside here, and I'm going to shake in 6 cups of salt instead of the 9 straight into the filter house. You want to add it in slow. The Caldera model has a thing called protection mode. So if it ever gets, the filter ever gets clogged up, it's going to pop up protection mode. It's going to shut your spa down. It's going to tell you to clean your filter and then turn off your breaker. Turning off the breaker when it says protection mode is what clears the code on there. So if that ever happens, just take your filter out, shake it off into the water, just knock that salt loose from there so it's got better flow, and it should solve your problem. Then our last one here. Now, when I wired the tub up, I've already added in the power pack for the salt system, and I've put a salt cartridge in instead of having the dummy cartridge that's in there with the tub. So I know that that's already in there. But typically before you turn the power on, that's when I would put in your new salt cartridge. And having your jets running on high when you add in the salt, just let it do its cycle. They typically last for about 25 minutes and then they shut themselves down. But keeping that circulation going is going to help that salt circulate through your tub. I found out when I've added the salt in there and try to turn the jets down to talk to people so they can hear me better, it ends up throwing that protection mode. So you really need to get that salt to circulate. Okay, so now the next thing that we're going to go into is the salt system settings. So with these Caldera models, when you got the buttons here, you're going to hit your options, go into your salt system here, and then this is the screen that it's initially going to pop up. It's going to tell you low and active. So then we're going to hit this test status button, and then this takes about 10-15 seconds. And then what you're wanting to see is it say system okay. If it ever says system inactive, low, or high status, your tub will not be making chlorine. So right here we see it says salt system okay. Now up here on this little dial, this just tells you the connectivity that it has from the salt that we added to the electricity for your tub to turn it into chlorine. And right now I always try to set it on the startup on the lower end. If it says salt system okay, it's reading the salt level. So that's what you want to see there. Now once your temperature starts to raise, it's going to bring it up here into about the low end or the middle of it, and that's perfect right where you want to be. That should give you about 5 to 6 months before anything says anything with your salt at all. Now when you're adding in those 6 cups of salt, if it ever says low salt content, that doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, your salt level has plummeted. Your salt cartridge could be going bad. So make sure that you guys are testing that. Get you a new salt cartridge every time you guys do your drain and refill. But for these next 5 days, the tub will not be making chlorine. So the level 3 here is the chlorine output. We're going to bring this all the way up to level 10 here, and we're going to leave that there for 5 days. Then it's very, very important that we hit this boost button every single day to get the tub to start creating chlorine. And this boost cycle stays on for about 24 hours. So by doing that, you get to that 5-day mark, you've checked all of your chemicals the way that you're supposed to. You should be able to bring this level from 10 down to a 6 or a 7, and then you won't have to hit the boost button anymore. That boost button becomes somewhat of a light shock to it, where it creates just a little bit more chlorine to kill that extra bacteria in there, so you're not using so much chlorine-free oxidizer. And then with that there, that should be your startup, and in 5 days your tub should be good to go. All right. Thanks for watching this week's video on Wellness Wednesday. Tune in next week for more spas and tips.